What's up, everybody? I want to talk about planning with you today. I find planning fascinating because lots of people get it wrong. And I think they get it wrong because they try to fit themselves in a box that they don't fit in. Story of this entire YouTube podcast. So, today I'm going to give you some different planning options that are going to really help you as you're figuring out what your best planning style is. And we're going to get this dialed down so that you get so much more done. If you follow just the advice in this episode, I bet you can get at least 2 hours back in your workday every single day if you want to. So let's dive right in. But before we do, let me introduce myself. My name is Amber Deibert. I'm a performance coach for enterprise and strategic account executives. I help with mindset and I help with productivity. And a huge, huge part of productivity is planning. So here's what I think about planning. Planning is making decisions in advance. Let me repeat that because if you get nothing else, I want you to hear this piece. Planning is making decisions for yourself in advance. Now, I've talked about this before, that a lot of people get planning and execution mixed up. They muddy those two together, and I genuinely think that these should be two completely separate activities. A lot of people will start planning and they write down a task. I'm like, oh, I could just do this right now. So then they start the task. And then by the time they finish the task, they're like, what am I supposed to do next? And they never fully finished planning. They never fully decided decided in advance what they should be doing. So if nothing else, I want you to take away from this that planning is deciding in advance. And that can be a huge, huge favor that you can do for yourself by just sitting down and taking a few minutes to plan. Now, another big misconception is that planning takes a long time. I have a process that I take my clients through. I take them through this process on our calls and I time it so that they can see how short it is. And we write down every single task they have. I've talked about this in this YouTube and this podcast. Go look for the 5-minute tool that will save you hours. I have them write down every single task and I have them prioritize their list. And in our heads, we think if I sit down to take the time to plan, it's going to take me like probably 30 minutes, probably an hour. I don't have time for that. I should just start working. But the big misconception is that planning takes a long time. It doesn't have to. You could get your planning done in 5 to 7 minutes. And just sitting down and deciding in advance what's most important to you today for 5 to 7 minutes can genuinely save you hours. Because what's the alternative? If you don't know what you're supposed to be working on, and if you don't know what your priorities are for today, and you don't know what the plan is, then you probably find yourself doom scrolling. You probably find yourself getting distracted. You kind of just scroll through emails and clean up your inbox and then respond to a few Slack messages or Teams messages. And you never really get done what you need to get done. So taking this time, first of all, doesn't take long at all. And second of all, by spending that 5, maybe 7 minutes planning out your day, you're going to save hours for yourself. Okay, another principle of planning is that it's so helpful to have your plan in your visual space. If you sit down and you plan out your next quarter and it's in some document somewhere and you look at it one time and then it gets lost in your drive somewhere, that is not going to help you. I'm a really big fan of having a plan in my visual space. So what that might look like is it might look like having a Post-it note with tons of tasks on it. One of my favorite tools that my clients love and is totally game-changing for them is sit down every morning and write your 3 to 5 tasks that you have to get done today. Write them on a Post-it note and then have that Post-it note in your visual space so that when you have a break between calls, when you have an extra 15 minutes here or there, you can see right away, what is the plan? What do I need to be doing? I've also used like tick charts in the past. So I'll have some kind of chart like this where I can check off the boxes and I can see what needs to happen. And it's so helpful having a physical paper because whenever I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? How much time is left? Where am I? What's happening? When you get off a call, just like trying to reorient yourself and trying to make that transition. It can be so helpful to have a physical piece of paper on your desk that is telling you this is what you're supposed to be doing and make those decisions in advance. So whenever I think about planning, I think, okay, I've got an employee working for me. Her name is Amber. She's not the best employee I've ever had. And she gets very distracted. And how can I set Amber up for success? Insert your name here, right? How can I set her up for success? Well, I know that she feels very discombobulated when she ends a call of like, where am I supposed to be? What's happening next? How much time do I have? Transitions are really hard for me. And I think they are for a lot of people. And so having those decisions made in advance of like, okay, Amber, I'm going to sit you down. These are the only 3 things you have to get done today. And if you get those 3 things done today as a wild success, that is going to be really helpful for Amber to have something that is grounding her and telling her, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. It also is kind of 2 different parts of your brain. I don't know if this is actually neurologically true, but I feel like it's very true. Very different parts of your brain that are deciding what you should work on and what's going to be worthwhile for you. And then also the part of your brain that's actually sitting down to execute it. So for some of my clients, they have a hard time getting going on Monday. They're kind of still recovering from the weekend. They're still tired and groggy and like trying to figure out what's what. And so for clients like that, I recommend that they make Monday a list making day. Here's another really easy hack. If you don't like the word planning, if it's something in your body just feels like, ugh, like fingernails on a chalkboard, hearing the word planning, don't call it planning. Call it list making. Call it idea generation. Call it whatever you want. ChatGPT could probably give you some really good ideas. But so for those clients who are having a hard time getting going on Mondays, I recommend that they make Monday a list making day. This is a day where I'm reviewing all of my accounts. I'm looking at my list of accounts. I'm kind of asking myself what needs to happen. Is there anything I can move forward on that account? Are there any opportunities I need to move forward? And I'm just making lists. That's all I'm doing. Just making lists of what needs to happen and what I'm going to focus on this week. Okay, so let's talk about timing of planning. For some people, they love to have a daily plan, and that's what works best for them. And if that's you, fantastic. When you think about having a daily plan, there's 2 options. You can make your plan in the morning. So when you sit down, kind of look at what's happening, you gather your bearings, and you make a plan for the day. Option 2 would be at the end of the day, closing out your work and making a plan for tomorrow. One of these will resonate with you if you're kind of a daily plan person. I want to give you a bunch of different options of different kind of planning styles to try so you can figure out which one works best for you. Some of you will want to sit down first thing in the morning and make out your plan. Some of you will be just ready to go and firing, and it will be so much more helpful for you to already have the plan of what needs to happen. The end of day plan can be really helpful for people who tend to ruminate about their work and tend to take their work with them after the workday is over. It can be really helpful to kind of close out your day, take account of what you've already gotten done today, and then map out what you need to do tomorrow. There's something magical that happens when you document things. As soon as you write it down, it's like your brain stops ruminating about it. So if you're that kind of a person that you're like ruminating and like thinking about your tasks and thinking about what needs to happen and waking up in the middle of the night with that email that you forgot to send, do yourself a favor and make sure that you write down all your tasks, because this is really going to help you to not ruminate about them and be able to leave them aside. And then you may find that the next morning when you show up, you can just hit the ground running. As soon as you've got your workout in, you've got your coffee, you're totally going, you already know exactly what you need to get done. And you can use those more focused, more energized moments in the morning to get your most important work done so that the afternoon can be left to following up on emails, responding to messages, but you know that you've already got the most important things done for the day. Where this typically goes wrong is that for a lot of my clients, if this is you, then you're in great company. For a lot of my clients, they kind of like show up in the morning. They're not totally sure what they're supposed to be doing. And so they kind of like look through email, respond to a bunch of fires, respond to messages, and then like, okay, well, now it's lunchtime. And then like, oh, it's after lunch. I'm feeling kind of groggy. So I might just like go like scroll on LinkedIn for a while or do my favorite time wasting activity. And like, oh, shoot, now it's 4 p.m. I really need to get done what needs to get done. What needs to get done today? And so much time is wasted and you're not spending your time on the most important things. At the end of the day, you feel exhausted because you've been busy, quote unquote, all day. But a lot of that busyness has been distractions and lower level tasks. It hasn't been the most important work that you need to do. And so after a few months of this, you're like, well, I'm behind quota. What's going on? I'm working every single day. I feel like I'm busy all day, but I'm not moving anywhere. I'm not getting anything done. So by just sitting down and making a plan for yourself, That's going to help save so much time in distractions when it's kind of late afternoon and you're trying to figure out what you need to be doing, but it's taking a lot of mental effort because you don't have a lot of energy left in your brain. And it will help you to know exactly what needs to be done, get it done more quickly, and that will give you so much free time in the afternoon versus procrastinating, avoiding, hesitating, and not getting the work done that you need. Okay, we talked about some misconceptions with planning. We also talked about some tactics and techniques you can use. We talked about daily planning. Now let's talk about other options for planning. Maybe you only need a weekly plan. Maybe sitting down on Monday, or some people love to do this on Friday. Sitting down on Monday or Friday and making your plan for the entire week can be exactly what you need. Maybe you don't need to sit down and make a daily plan. Maybe you just need a weekly plan. I want you to experiment with all of these. I want you to test out and just A/B test. Like, do different experiments on different things and try one way, then try another way. Give each experiment kind of a nice fair trial and see which one resonates with you the most. Where I find a lot of people going wrong is that they haven't let themselves experiment and figure out what works best for them. And they just expect that they have to do it the way that somebody on LinkedIn told them that they should do it. And that way doesn't work. And so then they're like, well, I'm horrible at planning. Maybe it's just that you haven't found your ideal rhythm for planning. Okay, alternatively, you could do a daily plan. You could do a weekly plan. You could even do a monthly or a quarterly plan. Those two plans may be all that you need. This is what I would do. I would sit down and do my 12-week year. You've maybe heard about this book. It essentially teaches you how to plan one quarter at a time, and you can get more done in one quarter than most people can get done in an entire year. So you think about that 12 weeks being a year and you get everything done. So I would sit down and plan my quarters. This is what I still do to this day. I plan my quarters, and then you map out what are my goals, what are the tactics I'm going to use to get there. And then all you have to do is just follow that plan. You've got it all laid out for you. It takes me maybe 30 to 45 minutes to map out an entire quarter, but spending that time in one quarter and never planning again is not that bad. Now all I have to do is follow my plan, follow my goals, follow the tactics that I'm going to get there, and that's it. Or maybe you even map out an entire month at a time. I remember when I was early in my business, I would do this. I'd be like, okay, what do I want to accomplish by the end of the month? And it maybe was watching a course and learning some content, or maybe it was launching a podcast, or maybe it was creating my own course. And so I would map out week by week what the themes were and what I needed to get done by the end of that week. And I would just block it off on my calendar of like, this is what the goal for this week is. And I would just follow the plan. There's something so magical that happens when you make these decisions in advance. Then when you sit down to work, you don't have to make the decisions anymore. Decisions take so much energy. And so if you've made all those decisions in advance and you've made the plan for yourself, then when you sit down, all you have to do is execute. And it feels lovely. You just follow the plan that you've made. You don't have to try to figure out what you're supposed to be doing, figure out what's important, try to weigh the priorities. It's so helpful when you can do that in advance. Okay, I hope that this has given you a lot of different options and different things to think about as you're thinking about how you do your planning. I would love for you to think about making the decisions in advance. Don't try to do planning and execution at the same time. Separate some time to make decisions about how you're going to set up your work for you, what's going to be most important to you, and then separately have time to execute. And I want you to toy with different options. Try planning every day. Try planning in the morning. Try planning in the afternoon. Try planning once a week. Maybe it's on Monday. Maybe it's on Friday before you close out for the weekend. Try planning once a month. Try doing a 12-week year and plan for just once a quarter. Try all these techniques. I promise you're going to find one that resonates with you and that is yours. And this will help you to further create your own unique way of doing your productivity. You'll know that you have your personal operating system figured out when it doesn't make any sense to anybody else because it's supposed to be so unique to you and it shouldn't fit anybody else's style or personality. It's just for you. Again, I want to, as always, encourage you to drop the shoulds. Let yourself be who you are. Let yourself work the way you are. Accept yourself for who you are. And figure out your best way of planning. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can come search my name, Amber Deibert, find me over there. And if you want more helpful tips, right in your inbox. I will be so generous and give them right to you, right in your inbox every single week. I send them out every Wednesday. come find me over at mentalmastery.com/newsletter, and I will send those free tips your way. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.